Welcome, everyone, to the Soul Canvas podcast. This is the place to be possible. I'm going to be bringing you stories and strategies and magnificent people who are going to help you say yes to your life, say yes to adventure, to love, to creativity. And today, we're going to talk about how to say yes to joy. My guest today is Ilene Mitnick. She is a dear, dear friend of mine. She's one of my 3 a.m.s, and I've only got 3 of those. You know, those people you call at 3 a.m. and you know they'll pick up the phone and not pass you to voicemail. Ilene and her life and business partner, Allie, are co-founders of the Zest Zone. This is a life by design company that helps you live with more vitality and joy everywhere you go. Ilene and I are going to talk more about what she and Allie are up to in the world. You should know that she is certified in essential oil aromatherapy and more recently laughter yoga. I can't wait for you to hear all about those things. So I'm just going to dive right in. And Ilene, more parts of the bio, please bring that to our listeners in this conversation today. Thank you, my friend, so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, and I'm happy to know I'm a 3 a.m.er.
You are definitely, and I for you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Good to know. I hope I never need it, but good to know.
100%. So one of the things I was thinking about before the interview, and really I think of this more as a conversation than an interview per se, but I really am deeply curious about when and how the joy essence really started playing the strongest for you. But I wanted to start by wherever that came from. If I haven't told you this, or told it to you lately, I will never forget when we met over at that second go round store for the networking event. I don't even know who hosted the networking event. All I knew is that when I get out in the world, I'm fine. It's getting me out. I used to think I was a huge extrovert, but it turns out I'm not so much really. So in that particular event, I was like, you know, kind of wandering around and feeling a little awkward. I was new to St. Pete. And I looked across the room, and you and Allie were across the room in your fashionable damn selves. The way you were dressed, the way you hold yourself, the glasses, but it was the joy of it. It was really like there was an energy coming from you that I thought, oh, I need to go meet them. And across the room I went to make sure that I met both of you. And it's not been different. I mean, we've known each other a few years now, and we've certainly seen ups and downs for each other in our respective lives. But the joy is always at this baseline with you, which I so admire and respect about you. Has it always been that way for you? Like since you hit the planet this time?
Of course. I was born this way. Well, thank you for that. And have felt the same about you. I mean, and you come off as an extrovert.
I do.
I come off as an extrovert, and I think I found out 2 years ago that I'm an introvert. I was shocked. I was shocked. But that might also be why I'm so tired, because I kind of live the extrovert life.
Yeah, same.
I really think I never thought about my level of joy and the energy that I give off until I had to. But I think that I have always been happy. I was a joyful kid, a happy kid. I mean, I had my moments if I look at my lifeline, I've certainly had my moments. I've lived through some stuff that was difficult, made it through a diagnosis, went through a divorce, which, was hard on the kids and the family, but I made it through. And I think that I think I was really just raised. My mother always had a cup half. My mother's cup was just full. It wasn't even half. It was full. My father and his mother, who lived to 107, lived that way. Nothing bothered them.
Yeah.
They didn't worry about stuff. My father never sweat the small stuff. it always, like, his expression was always, let it go, let it
Mhm.
go. And I just think that I grew up that way.
Yeah,
And I would just rather get rid of all the static and all the distortion and
right.
just live on the upside of life. So I make a living at it, I make a life at it.
Yeah.
And I think really it is who I am. That's where my wiring is.
So a lot of nature and nurture, right?
Absolutely.
Came to the planet with some of that inherent to your being and also had that nurtured growing up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And really every job that in my adult life that I've taken was about leading somebody through the muck and
Mm,
bringing them to another place, point A to point B, and point B was always on a higher plane. Whether it was a training job, a leadership job, a coaching job.
right.
Even when we were innkeepers up in Provincetown, it was creating a setting so that when somebody walked in, they could have that shoulder dropping experience. They could
Mm.
leave their distorted life at home, that chaotic life at home, and come into something that was better than it was. So I'm constantly lifting and moving my body because I feel like that has been the role that I've played on and pretty naturally.
So I reflecting back on that question, when I was thinking about that question and thinking about, was I a joyful kid? I was not.
Mm.
I was not a joyful kid. I was not an unjoyful kid. I don't know that I would ever put the word joy on some of the higher points. Happy, right? I certainly experienced happiness. And it's not to say that my home life was just so chaotic and it was this level set. My mom would tell you today that we're Finns, and Finns are, dark and practical. And so when you think about messages, right, that come along and messages as we grow up and things like that, I don't think I really found pure joy, certainly till after I got sober. And I got sober when I was like 23, 24 years old. I mean, up till that point, it was a very practical journey to getting someplace other than where I was, and getting through and staying alive and all that sort of thing, right? So what do you think? All of that to say that I think for me at the basis of my joy today is the gratitude that I lived, right? That I made it through my addictions and I had this other big chance. What's at the basis of joy for you? What fuels that for you?
That's a great question.
Mm,
And I think that I once read an article in the Oprah magazine, magazine. And when I read it, I had such clarity that I was sobbing.
mm,
And it's the article stated that when you find your soulmate, you can finish your childhood. Your soulmate allows you to finish your childhood.
holy God.
I'm being, I'm
I might
being,
cry now.
yeah. And I
Wow.
think that whether it is a spouse, whether it is a partner, whether it is a boss, whether it is a girlfriend, if you're coaching somebody, imagine, and I've always used that. I use that as a template for living.
Mm,
When I was coaching a department filled with other people, could I allow them, not that I was their soulmate, but could I allow them to finish their childhood per se at work? Did they feel like they could? I wanted my employees to come in on Monday morning. I cannot wait for Monday morning.
yeah.
And so I've tried to live that way.
Hmm.
I found a soulmate, who allows me to finish my child. It's never over, you
Yeah.
know. And I think that is just a beautiful way of being for life, not just for love.
And so what is it fair to say then that if one is not other attached, no one's primary, uh like I don't have a romantic partner in my life, but if became my own soulmate, could I then finish my childhood and
Yeah,
find more joy in that? Like,
I would
how would
say
you coach
yes.
somebody around that?
I would say yes. I would say that uh, I would work with you and talk with you and play with you and find out, um, when Jen Madsen is at her best,
Mhm.
what is she doing? How is she being? When you go back to the memories that allow you to just like let your belly out and make you really happy and your shoulders drop, what are those memories, and what are the elevated emotions that go back to that? So these are some of the strategies that I use to help people get back in touch with who they are.
Mhm.
We came in as joy. We came in as joyful beings, and then life happens on top of us. So you don't need to have a mate. You don't need a marriage license to find your joy.
Yeah.
You have to stop and slow down and put yourself into neutral. Give yourself
Mhm.
time to remember as to what brings you those moments of
Mhm.
freedom and joy and peace and all those feelings um, that we're seeking to experience.
Sure.
Uh,
So you and I, in the world of personal development, right? We participate individually, we bring that to others. You've certainly heard the phrase recently, I'm sure, of toxic positivity.
mm.
Have you heard that?
Well, one of my new gurus in the last couple of years is Kristen Butler, and Kristen wrote The Comfort Zone. So she talks a lot about positivity and kind of resetting yourself inside the
Mm.
domain of that. So I can only imagine what toxic positivity is.
Yeah, so I had heard about it probably last year was my first recollection of hearing something about that. And basically it was this idea because social media, right, is there's a lot of people now in this self-help and personal development worlds and, you know, presenting themselves like that professionally, etc., which is fine, all well and good. I think the toxic positivity came from always putting something positive on really horrendous, hard circumstances,
Okay.
right? And not acknowledging the feelings, not making room for the feelings in the first place, just automatically going to this is happening for you, not to you, which by the way, I'm not averse to that notion.
Mm-hmm.
I do still think, and I want to know what you think about, I do still think there's an opportunity when something arises for us through pain, struggle, trauma, that we do something with that on our way to finding reason, finding a lesson. What do you think about that?
Interesting. And thank you for the clarification on the toxic positivity.
Mm,
Um, it is very interesting. I think that we do need to stop and acknowledge the pain, the trauma, the stress around it. Um, I think that, in fact, I was just with somebody before our call. We were talking about it isn't always about seeking joy, seeking happiness. It's about getting to the very next feeling. Okay, that's all I have the strength for.
yeah.
I might be feeling hopeless. I might be in a lot of pain because of what's happening in my world, my life, my home. And so I think that we have to stop and acknowledge the feeling
Hmm.
and and find a reset button, if you will, to get to the very next feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is headed in the direction you wanted to go.
Well,
Um,
I think that's being useful with it. I think it's doing something useful with it because, when I first got sober, of course, I was nothing but emotions, the highest highs, the lowest lows. I hadn't felt all the things in like 10 years.
mhm,
And now I was like one giant nerve ending and feeler running around, right? So I didn't really know what to do with any of it,
mm,
except that, the old messages were happy is good, sad is bad.
mm,
So, wrestling around with that. And an early sponsor said, at the end of the day, feelings aren't facts. And so running down the rabbit hole or getting too attached, which my Buddhist practice made, clearer for me later, getting too attached to either is not really a great thing, right? Because I'm then dependent on it for my happiness or my sense of myself or my sense of what's possible for me in the world. That said, I know that laughter and joy and positivity brings different chemicals to the body than sadness and depression and staying in the muckety muck of things. Yeah.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit, because the laughter yoga path. Tell us about your laughter yoga path, and because I've been to some of the sessions now, which I love, by the way, so much. Um,
Thank you.
Tell us about how you got to this place of laughter yoga, and also about the chemicals that are released when we do things like laughter.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I have to acknowledge you because it was inside of your 9-week Vision Quest program where I decided to focus on personal development.
Mm,
I didn't have to, but I just knew there was something going on inside. I was looking for something that would tickle me. And I hadn't taken the time in many, 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 many years to figure out what that might be. And
mm,
so it was inside of your coaching and your capsule that I really identified with those feelings and experiences that I was hungry for. I didn't know what was going to drop in, and you kept assuring me, it's coming. You don't have to know what the it is. I just knew that I was looking for an experience that where I could, use my creativity, feel creative, customize things to move people, be in the middle of a joyful experience, help people from
mm.
A to point B, even though, and that might sound like work, but whatever it was doing, I wanted to move either myself or somebody else. And it was during that process with you, excuse me, that I was in a session. I had been asked to speak, Allie and I, and we did. And somebody got up to do 10 minutes for a transition from one topic to another, 10 minutes of laughter yoga. And it was the second time that I had done that. I had experienced it. And I got hit with what felt like a cosmic FedEx. And we got in the car to go home. And I said, I just found it. I found something that I feel aligned with, that I can put my joy into, that I can bring joy to others. And this isn't about toxic positivity. This is, I mean, I work with people who are struggling, who could
Yeah.
be suffering. And laughter yoga, as you now know, is a beautiful, I call it a breakthrough technology. Others have called it that as well. It is a combination of laughter and eye contact and very playful exercises and deliberate laughter, I should say,
Yeah.
that does turn into spontaneous laughter. Clapping, a lot of eye contact. It's
Mm,
playful, physical exercise that affects, there's so many physiological benefits, similar to essential oils
yeah.
uh, and other activities. It releases, we are our own personal pharmacies, and laughter yoga releases the happy hormones, if you will, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, the endorphins, which helps to suppress cortisol, the stress hormone,
Uh-huh.
by laughing, by moving the body, by clapping, by lots of really exaggerated smiling, and that deep physiological, that deep sigh, that deep exhale of laughter helps really improve different systems in the body. It's great for sleep. It's great for digestion. It's great for circulation and cardiovascular. It's great for anxiety and depression, uh,
Mm.
because you can't possibly be thinking about what's happening in your world when you are being guided inside of laughter.
It's
And
it's extraordinary to watch people go through it too. It's so cool.
it is cool. And it's so unique in that it allows people to drop into a space where there's a release for them. Like they had no idea that they were, I mean, I've seen people go from laughter to crying, not just crying because I'm laughing so hard, but
Right.
truly a release in tears. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the same, I think crying and laughing are very much the same. And when guided, I've had some extraordinary results personally with it. I've used it here at home. It's free to use anytime I want. And I've seen and heard from people who I've been working with. And it's just a beautiful modality.
All right, so we have listeners that are going to see us on YouTube. We have some that will listen to us on their podcast channel. Can you take us through you and I go through a 15-second, 30-second
Oh,
laughter stretch?
sure. Okay. Well,
Was
I love to deconstruct a little laughter.
Yeah.
So, very quickly, we're gonna take a laugh and we're gonna break it down. We're gonna say ho, ho, ha, ha, ha,
Ho, ho,
ho,
ha,
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 ha, ha, ho,
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 ho, ha,
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 ha.
ha.
I might tell somebody to close their mouth and laugh through closed lips. Let's try it. And now, with a few more seconds, let's
It
take a
cracks
nice,
me up every time. I
I
love it.
know, I know. Let's take a nice deep breath through the belly. This is the last one. We're just going to laugh out loud. Okay. So inhale and now laugh it all the way out until you don't have any air anymore. Ready? And I always know I'm done because I cough.
You cough, I
You
snort.
cough. When you cough, I cough. When you
Oh,
laugh, I laugh. And
oh,
I'm
that's
already like, even that, I'm schwitzing. And it is pretty amazing. And so the body and the brain don't know the difference between deliberate laughter and spontaneous laughter. And yet the body is giving off the benefits already. It doesn't need to be funny, you know.
right.
So it's a wonderful modality that I'm including into our retreats, into our coaching. It's really exciting and wonderful, and it's fresh. It's a fresh new amenity. I'm looking at it like a personal amenity for my own
That's
growth and
perfect.
development.
Yeah, that's perfect. That is really a perfect way to characterize that too. And having been through some of the live sessions and watched myself and watched others, start out a little self-conscious about things and then you know, get permission for it to not be like the most authentic laughter that anyone's ever produced. Just laugh, just move the body in that way until the spontaneous stuff comes up. It's so great to watch people, and it's certainly been awesome to break through that as
Well,
well. And thank you for the acknowledgement earlier about the vision program. I always say that program only works as well as people are willing to be open to what shows up for them, which you 100,000% were open to that
I
and
love.
into that process of letting that show up. And I knew, because you and I have seen each other, try some things along the way, right? Like we know how to say yes to possibilities. We know how to at least give something a try. This yes to this laughter yoga was a different yes. And how did that feel in your body when you said, yes, I'm going to take the next step with this?
Well, it felt amazing. It feels amazing. I know it's right. As I said, I feel very aligned with it. And what I'm about to share with you is not my own work. This is the work that's been done by other people in the happiness industry. But we all have something called a happiness set point, and it's like a thermostat, right?
Mm,
And so, and we all have one. We come into the world with one, and research has shown that the this thermostat goes way up, when I do things and experience things that make me happy, the thermometer, the thermostat goes up. If you have things that aren't good for you, or you go through tragedies or traumas or traumatides, whatever you want to call it, then your set point goes down.
mm,
So, and even when we win the lottery, so people win the lottery, they're excited and happy, but research has shown that a year later, they're back to set point. Okay.
mm,
Everybody comes back to set point, and you can change your happiness set point based on, some of it's based on your DNA, some of it's based on your circumstances, and some of it is based on your thoughts, behaviors, and actions. And so that's my training. I'm going to stop there and say that I like affecting my happiness set point with my thoughts, behaviors, and actions,
yeah,
because we all try and change our circumstances. Everybody's working on the circumstances to try
right.
and get more happy. I'll be happy when I get the job.
Mm,
I'll be happy when I lose the weight. I'll be happy when I make six figures. Well, then circumstances change.
yeah.
If you can affect the thoughts and the behavior and the practices, you can affect, not only can you actually affect your DNA, but you can affect your happiness set point. So
Mm,
laughter yoga, I know scientifically. So I knew enough about the world of the study of happiness.
yeah,
When I found something that affected the thought, the behavior, and the practice that I knew could alter a set point, my happiness set point, and therefore those of those around me,
yeah.
I knew I was onto something.
Yes, I could tell. Well, I could tell completely that you knew you were onto something. Is joy the same as happiness?
A lot of people it gets interchanged, and I can't control what you guys are all thinking. However, I think I look at joy as in that moment, like
Mm,
capturing that moment of something. And you can't be open to it unless you are happy inside.
yeah,
It's hard for somebody who's really down, really out, hasn't taken the time to deal with stuff to find that joy.
right.
Right. So I think happiness is your general state of being open and positive and being allowing to feel the joy. And then that moment of joy is that playful, that moment of play, that moment of um, that flow when you are in flow
Yeah.
and when you can feel that joyful flow. So to me, it's a little different.
What kind of strategy or strategies would you share with our listeners for finding joy, cultivating joy?
Cultivating joy. So that's a great question, and everybody's going to have their own style as in terms of what they love. But generally speaking, stop and slow down and ask yourself the question that I ask everybody, which is, when I'm at my best, what am I doing?
Mm,
Whether you're 5 years old, 15 years old, 25, 35, or 55. So to stop and really take an inventory about not what brings me joy, but when I'm
mm,
at, when I'm at my very, very best, what am I doing? And make a list.
mm-hmm.
Because there are things that you're good at. There are things that you're really passionate about. There are things that people will pay you for and all that. But
Yeah.
when I'm truly at my best, so make a list. Um, and I would say practice some kind of mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever turns you on. Is it meditation? Is it journaling? Is it just, I'm starting to swim. So I'm excited that I'm going to be swimming, and during that swim time, I'm going to slow my body down.
Mm,
So I think that the first step in cultivating joy is to remember what puts you in a flow state. Take the time to stop and practice some kind of mindfulness. Remember, like what you had us do. What are your strengths? What do you value? What's important to you? So get in touch with that. Um, a reset button for me has always been to go back to gratitude. Um, and
same.
that's important, to really do a rampage of gratitude, not just I'm grateful for the grass and my car. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, really go into a rampage of, can you come up with a
Right.
list of hundreds of things that you're truly grateful for, and then go back and say why,
Mm,
and put yourself through a process that might take you a couple of weeks.
yeah, that would be intense.
So these are all little activities that I would have people do, not all on the same day, not all on the same week,
Sure.
but it is the start of finding your pain points, identifying them, letting them go, because there'll always be something that comes in, and getting back in touch with what feels good, and then committing to some actionable steps so that you can bring that into your life again.
Awesome. So where would you like our listeners, viewers to find you?
Well, people can find me at the Zest Zone on Instagram at the Zest Zone. And that's always a place where we drop all of our stuff. And or the zestzone.com
Mhm.
is my website. And if you want more information about laughter yoga, just click on Zest Laugh.
Oh, you all within laughing distance of my voice. If you're here in the St. Pete area where we are, if you're online across the world, you can do this. Obviously, we did this during the podcast today. Uh, with each other online. We could have been on the phone and done the exact same thing. And the benefits are crazy great, listeners. Please, please, please check out Zest Laugh, Zest Everything with my delightful friend Ilene. Any parting words for us as we wrap up for the day?
Ooh, I didn't even think about that in advance. Just take a really good deep breath all the time if you get stuck. We do that in laughter, but inhale, and instead of just, whoop, almost dropped my cup. Instead of just breathing it out, laugh it out, and just stop. Just really stop and slow down.
Well, I love you to pieces. Thank you for saying yes to joy. Thank you for saying yes to the podcast, to our friendship, to all of the beautiful things you bring to this world.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. You bring me joy.
Awesome.
Awesome.